Hi, my name is Katherine Renton from Searchlight newspaper, and Searchlight newspaper was able to, on Saturday, April 17th, visit the Belmont Observatory, which is the base for the scientists monitoring the Soufriere volcano as it continues to erupt. And here you will see Professor Richard Robertson and volcano seismologist Roderick Stewart.
I don't know. I don't know. The problem is we don't have data going back that far. In Japan, they have data on eruptions going back thousands of years because of their culture, the way things are recorded. Here, the Amerindians left no written record, so it's very difficult to know when eruptions happened before the Europeans came and conquered the area, took over. And we try and use the geological record, using dating, carbon dating, the ash and things to get the date of eruptions, but it's an incomplete record. So I really don't know whether the shorter gap is significant or not. Really need to talk to the law school. Sorry, no, you're really getting into it.
Yeah, I'm quietly walking in the background, chucking in every now and then, and that's what we see. Anyhow, no, but I guess it was absolutely surprising because we had done research recently that suggested that there were some changes to the system beneath the ground. That for whatever reason it came to this. I mean, you could come up with all kinds of explanation. What drives these things fundamentally is gas and volatiles and how the volatiles come out. And fundamentally, the volatiles is coming from the subduction zone, and so that's a long process. And how that process gets translated in our time scales and how it varies is, if you think about it, we as humans are only seeing as a tiny piece of the history of this volcano. So when we try to pick up patterns and say, oh, it looks like it's only erupted once every 100 years. It might have had periods when it erupted once every 100 years. It might have had periods when it erupted once every year or twice every year. But we're only looking at a small part. So you can't really determine patterns just by the minimum. We can have a minimum record of what happened. So to come up with that, to say that you understand the way in which it erupts and what you call it periodicity, the periods that it have is wrong. But I mean, you can come up with all kinds of reasons why it will change. But basically, I think it will change because the conditions in the chamber or where it's driving the whole system has changed some. And fundamentally, the key change would be something to do with geochemistry, which has to do with the volatiles and the gas. A lot of what drives these volcanoes is the existence of volatiles, of gas in the magma, and the ease with which it can come out. As they come to the surface, the volatiles come out of solution. Basically, they form bubbles, and the extent to which those bubbles can break and the gas escape freely rather than pressurizing is fundamentally what drives what happened. And for whatever reason, this system somehow have, within the last 100 years or so, have suddenly gotten access to a set of gas-rich magma that decides that it wants to come up. And whether we like it or not,
Comforting.
it will come up. No, but even saying that, I think it would be wrong to think that just because it's erupted, it is short in time. It seems to be a short time in the last 100 years. Again, bear in mind that we're only looking at it in a short space. It's like if you're when you're a teenager, you behave differently than when you were little. You behave differently than when you were older. So it's like that. Soufriere is like, in the context of human time scales, is like it's kind of 30-something years. Probably no, not 30-something even. 29 years just passed, right? So in that case, it could really vary. So what we have to do in systems like this is just keep on monitoring them and suggesting to people that they shouldn't really, if they live on them, they need to remember that they could do this. If you can't live on a volcanic island in any way
without disposal.
I know a lot of people are saying they're never going back up to Soufriere again.
No, they always say that, People say that, you'll be surprised.
People say that to other people.
Yeah. Give it 10 years, 20 years.
Yeah.
You never go.
Yeah, and that's the problem. It's going to be very difficult to say when the end of this eruption is. you know, and it's going to look really quiet at times, and people will be tempted to go up, and especially if you've got visitors coming, people that haven't lived through this, there's a temptation to do this, and
people then just trickle back. But if you go back in historical record and look at 1902, in 1902 the government, which is colonial authorities, actually moved people. They have settlement patterns in the southern parts of this now determined by what happened in 1902. But yet, you still have people there, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so despite the fact that all these communities develop, there are still people that go back there to live, because volcanoes are beautiful mountains. I mean, really, they're nice to live on, they're breezy, they're pretty. So we all as human beings are attracted to them. So, and then we forget, because ours don't erupt very often. If you take even this has erupted recently, 41 years is relatively short, but before that was 100 years. So.
Some of the other islands, they've got volcanoes that can do this, but they've got no memory of an eruption. You know, it's hundreds of years between eruptions, and that's a big challenge. One of the great things here is that a large part of the population still remembered '79. So they knew what was possible, they knew what they might have to do. In Montserrat, which we were both involved in, when it started in '95, a lot of people in Montserrat didn't even know it was a volcano, because it hadn't erupted for about 400 years. You know, so that here at least people were aware, and that I think helped a lot in terms of evacuation.